Well, welcome back, everyone, to this week's edition of the Great Outside Podcast. I'm fortunate enough here this week to have guest Ryan Nelson from Grams Island State Park. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Tanner. Good to be with you.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you on here. And, I consider you a close friend of mine. And we kind of go a ways back from when you first started at Grams Island back in, I want to say it was 2011. I call Grams Island my second home. I've spent a lot of my high school and college summers out there in the maintenance department working and tirelessly to keep the grounds work up there, top notch. And over the course of the years have been able to kind of foster a relationship that way. And, I think we've been out probably a handful of times fishing together and working with tourism together. So I felt it was a great time to have you come on and speak a little bit on behalf of, North Dakota Parks and Recreation and Grams Island and the huge asset we have to our community here with the camping facilities and everything you guys have out there. So I would kind of like just to start the introduction here of, how you got involved in Parks and Recreation and, kind of what the process of you ended up in Devil's Lake and calling that your home with your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for reaching out and having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate when I started at Grams Island, I think you probably knew more about the park than I did, as I think you worked a year before I even got here. So it's been enjoyable to stay in touch with you and work with you, especially on the Devil's Lake community and the park operations. So I got started in my career with North Dakota Parks and Recreation in 2006, but prior to that, I was like many of our visitors to the area and to the park. I enjoyed the outdoors from a young age. I stayed in many state parks and visited many boat ramps and many reservoirs and lakes in South Dakota. I'm from southeastern South Dakota. Didn't know that eventually one day, my professional career would lead me to North Dakota, but I'm certainly glad it did. So that love for the outdoors, not knowing what direction it was going to go, led me to, really pursue an interest, or I had an interest and pursue a career in more of the natural areas, like, a lot of our state parks compared to, say, the municipal or the city type park and recreation activities. So I got to kind of fill that, that void with, the hunting and fishing and things I was pretty familiar with. And I've had an opportunity in North Dakota to work at, two beautiful parks, and then also, work on beautiful bodies of water. In 2006, I started on Lake Sakakawea on the North Shore at Fort Stevenson State Park, and enjoyed my time there. And then in 2011, I got an opportunity to laterally transfer to Grams Island. The timing was right for me and my family. Career-wise, I think it felt like a good opportunity to see what other challenges are out there, and Grams Island has been able to create those challenges, but has also been very rewarding to work on a body of water like this. So in 2011, it got here when many of the region's populations and leaders were dealing with rising waters, as they have been for many years. But one of the big projects out here at that time was dealing with the road raise project in 2011 and 12. So we were kind of feet in the water and been going ever since. So
Absolutely. And it's been really cool to see the history of Grams Island. And, I'm thinking about the road raise project right there. And I forget what summer it was, but I remember where the water, there'd be days with the correct wind. We'd have to have the snowplow from the park basically plow the boulders that came off the road just so we could get our vehicles back to Highway 19, just because of the riprap and the debris that gets pushed up on shore. And, without the videos and photos that people were taking at that time, like, it's really tough to fathom that when you're driving out there right now because of how great that road was built up. And, I still think that road out there is one of the best shore fishing spots in Devil's Lake.
Well, there's a lot of other people that would probably agree with you. It does get, there's a lot of traffic along that island road, and what used to be just natural grass areas going into the water is now, it makes accessibility a little tougher, but has certainly been, it's for some reason seems to be a hot spot. So particularly on the west side of the road, since that's where a lot of the wind activity comes from. So
yep. And it seems like, especially in the springtime, that I don't know if those fish are coming up along those rocks and kind of coming up to the grassy areas or the cattail areas that are, closer to the north end of that road stretch and spawning up there or what. But it seems like, one of my first 2 shore fishing trips usually can produce a walleye or 2 from those areas. And I know you caught me out there the other night driving through, and it's exactly what I was doing, was checking out those first couple spots. So it's been cool to see the progress made out there, and just how we have those opportunities. To get
you're always one of the first ones I see once that open water is there. I know you're not too far behind.
I get antsy, especially, you get into later March and you're starting to put ice fishing equipment away, and you start to see that little bit of water open up underneath the bridges. And it's like, I know it's too soon, but right when that first chance of most of the ice is off the lake, I'm out there ready to tackle it and see if we can't dust off the rods for a couple casts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a little history on Graham's Island itself. If I'm not mistaken, that is was it a part of the Garrison Diversion Project that kind of established it?
Yeah, kind of part of that tri-county park system. And what used to be the Devil's Lake State Park system that encompassed multiple areas. There was 4 actually areas around Devil's Lake when the water levels were significantly lower. A couple of those areas were just boat ramps, and then we had the Shelvers Grove State Park that was located on just off of Highway 2 there east of Devil's Lake. And since then been closed for over 10 years now. And the areas were, facilities were pretty well abandoned. And there's some traffic at the one of the boat ramp areas that still exists, but in 2011 dealt with a lot of the flooding of the incoming road. And so Graham's Island's kind of the last of those 4 areas that are managed by the state, by our department. So in 1988, it actually officially became kind of the state park. But there was, it used to be a Zebach Pass recreation area that encompassed more of the area down by our primitive campground, which is where there's a sunken retaining wall, kind of like a marina structure that's in place that provides some excellent ice fishing and open water fishing areas, but is quite a few feet underwater currently.
Well, and I really look back on the photos my parents took as I was growing up, and there's one particular shot where I don't know how old I was. I was pretty young, and I'm holding this northern that's probably 34, 36 inches. I mean, it's dang near as tall as me. And you look at that photo back then, and you wouldn't think I'd become a fisherman, because I'm like standing away from it, kind of like, I don't want to touch that thing. And my parents told me that's exactly where that fish was caught, was off of that old kind of marina structure down there where the old bait shop and everything kind of used to be. And it's just weird to think about, nowadays, where you could drill an ice hole and you're sitting 15 feet above where I used to be fishing 20 some years ago with a fishing rod on the open water. So yeah, that's really cool, just to kind of see the history of that and learn about it all.
And that was probably the biggest learning curve for me, coming to Devil's Lake. I grew up fishing mostly Missouri River and Missouri reservoirs. So you're targeting, different points and bays and things like that, but it's primarily a gravel structures and rock structures. And then coming here, you're really targeting, a lot of the old shoreline that used to be. and, kind of looking for those transition areas from that old shoreline. And then, you're looking for structure, you're looking for old roads, groves of trees, a lot of those areas is what you structure and or what you target. And it's a double-edged sword. Your equipment can get banged up, as many people know, and so it's always my advice to many of our visitors is treat Devil's Lake in the summertime just like you would in the wintertime, and that there's no sure thing, and you always want to be checking your surroundings and be aware of where you're at.
Yep. And I think Graham's Island's like, I know it's a very popular place to launch your boat just because of the fact you guys are centrally located on the lake. You're 10-minute boat ride up to Pelican, you're 5-10 minutes to the flats. You want to go over to 6 Mile Bay, it's another 5-10 minutes, or, Main Lake's right there. And so you're pretty well positioned to be able to fish a lot of spots. But there's also a lot of that structure that you're talking about. I mean, you've got the Golden Highway that comes into basically where the west end of the park is. We've got 5-6 miles of underwater road there. That's good spot to jig or troll. And then you've got, Haley's Hump and stuff like that are not too far from the park, which is rock piles. And you've got old shoreline like Doc Hagen's, and it's all right there within just a few minutes of the boat ramp. So you really don't have to travel too far to get on good fishing.
Yeah, I think that's the primary drive, is the location. Like you said, centrally located between a number of different, fishing hotspots, particularly walleye, in the wintertime and in the summertime. And with that traffic, we want to be able to provide the highest quality facilities that we can. 4-lane boat ramp certainly, can accommodate large volume of anglers and recreationalists. And then, the facilities that go along with that, the fish cleaning station, we have the visitor center, the bait shop, and then, the camping facilities, over 180 sites, close to 190 sites that range from, primitive camping sites to all the way up to full service, water, electricity, and sewer. And so I think we're able to accommodate the wide variety of visitors that we get. And, we have the swim beach and the hiking trails and our meeting facilities that we try to take care of what we have and offer the highest quality of service along with facilities that we can, when you have a great location on Devil's Lake.
And I know you guys are really doing a great job with that, because I swear everyone I hear that is coming through, whether it was at the visitor center or you talk to them at sports shows, and they're all like, we just love coming to the state park out there because, hey, it's very well clean. It's clean. It's well upkept. And everyone that you run into, they're just super friendly, from the campground host to the rangers to all the attendants at the bait shop. I mean, it goes a long ways. And, I kind of love seeing the progress and everything that's happened out there, even from when I started. I want to say my first summer working out there was 2009, I believe. And, the new bait shop wasn't there. The new campground. The one thing I really thought was cool is those tree pods when you're driving into the park. I know we were talking about this earlier about how to see the progression of that. And when you started, when they were just little twigs, and, I used to mow that field there before there was any tree pods in there, and just to see now, and it's one of the most beautiful drives in the area. I tell a lot of people, it's like a whole different world out there. Like, as soon as you get onto the road, turning south off 19 and heading towards the park, and you just come into that first sign that welcomes you and you get into the trees, it's a whole different world, and it's breathtaking.
Yeah, you turn off of 19 and you have, a whole different environment, essentially, water surrounding you on both sides. And, you go from that to, like you said, you pass the entrance station, and all of a sudden Graham's Island's naturally wooded environment kind of takes over. And, you have close to a mile of just a naturally wooded area. And we try to preserve that the best we can. And then you'd come out of that wooded area, and, all of a sudden it's wide open. It's wide open, spaces, which is great. But we did want to, provide that, that kind of that naturally wooded area with that mitigation project, and that was a fantastic project. There was over 10,000 over 10,000. I shouldn't say 10,000, about close to 13,000 shrubs and trees that were planted for that mitigation project, and that was a big undertaking by our agency and our park. But ultimately, a number of years down the road, like we are now, those have really produced exactly what we wanted, to produce, and that was um, kind of a break between the drive-in and then the campground, and so it just provides that like that serenity and just that feel like you're not right next to somebody.
And that's the essence of camping right there. And I also like it out there, the fact that pretty much anywhere you go, you're protected from the North Dakota winds that we have. So you get off of a long day on the water and you get beat up out there a little bit, like you can come back and retire to your campsite and have a fire, and you're in the woods and protected. And it's just one of the most peaceful places that I know of in the Devil's Lake area. And I used to always come out there and take advantage of the hiking trails. And especially in times like this, it's great to just be able to get off the beaten path a little bit and get some fresh air and give yourself a mental break. And another thing too, I know a lot of people like to come out in the winter. You guys have I don't know if it's a couple miles of, I don't know the exact figure, but cross country groomed trails.
Yep. We utilize our natural trails, like the same trails that we mow during the summertime. We utilize those in the wintertime, and then we also utilize one of our campgrounds as grooming trails. So we got a pretty nice grooming equipment to be able to maintain those. And since we've had that equipment, we're seeing more and more traffic utilize the cross country ski trails. We're close to 3 miles now that they're groomed every week, usually regardless of conditions. And then we try to post those, how the conditions are on our website or on our Facebook page. And then the roads stay open all winter long. We keep the main roads open, kind of our emergency routes, so to speak, and we plow down to the boat ramp. And our Seaver Thompson Activity Center is available year round. So we always clear the snow that we need to keep the traffic coming in, and try to provide good access to the lake as much as we can. A little, it's challenging every year, but we can provide that good access. I think the anglers appreciate it.
Definitely. And it's one of those things too, like everyone thinks of a state park and it's seasonal. You've got basically Memorial Day to Labor Day, and after that things kind of dissipate. But you guys are, pretty much full function year round. Obviously things close down in the winter and whatnot, but the ability to still be able to, you got your vehicle pass, you get onto the ice and get onto the lake from there, or be able to come ski or even just come out for a little drive. We all get the wintertime blues, and be able to just get a little sightseeing and change of scenery. And, the other thing out there is the wildlife viewing is one of the best places. It doesn't matter when I'm out there, I always run into deer or turkeys, and it's just a world of its own.
Yeah, it's a fun population to see. You got the waterfall aspect of it, and then you got the big game and the small game. And right when I started here, I was kind of used to coming from pheasant country in South Dakota, and then even south of Garrison there at Fort Stevenson. I was used to seeing a lot of pheasants, and got out here, and you just there's just not that many in the area, but out on the island there are even fewer. And I'm used to hearing the sounds of pheasants now here just in the last year, actually. So it's enjoyable to see some of that small game that I haven't seen in quite a few years.
It is, and it's like it kind of almost probably brings you back to being back at your home place and down in South Dakota. And the other thing you mentioned, being an island, it's so funny that I'll get a lot of people at sports shows or on the phone that'll be like, well, how do you get to Graham's Island? Because if it's an island, how do you get there? And it's like, well, it really is an island, but there is a road connecting it. And so it's always funny that people always interpret that as it's a legit island you got to take a boat to or anything like that. But, the other thing that, we were talking about Zebach and Zebach's Pass is there's probably not a lot of people that realize when you come out by that primitive dock, the primitive campsite, there's an old road there that goes all
Hmm.
the way across to the South Shore. That's 25, 30 feet underwater. And, I've heard history of guys back in the 80s that would sit on that road and they'd catch perch from shore there. And, here we are with our ice houses just trying to catch something, or using jigging wraps there in the middle of the afternoon. So it's so diverse. And the thing I love about sending people out to Graham's Island in the summertime is, you do get a really windy day. It's a great backup plan to just, you've got the protected launch there. I do got to give you guys a lot of credit. One of my favorite things about is the painted lines when you're backing in. It makes it
Oh,
so
sure.
convenient.
Yeah.
And I know my dad appreciates that a lot. And the fact is, you could just get in your boat and tootle around one corner or the other, just depending on the wind direction. And you could tie up to a tree or anchor up on spot lock and throw a slip bobber out, and you should still have pretty good luck. So it's a great alternative to when the wind dictates where you can fish.
Right. Yeah. One way or another, you might have to deal with, a few chops on the, for a little while, but there is usually a place where you can escape and at least make it, fishable day. There's not always those opportunities. We get that south wind and it gets pretty challenging when it's coming right into the boat ramp, but there's not a lot of days like those.
Yeah,
And you can always tell when there are days like those because that Zebach Pass it gets pretty busy in there. But,
it's
we were talking about the number of areas, in close proximity to Graham's Island, and you just talked about it, that sunken road right out there. And there's a lot of structure there that you don't have to go very far to find. And that structure holds fish just as much as 2-3 miles, 4 or 5, 10 miles away. So
yeah. And the other thing I too wanted to just touch on too is the cabins that you guys have. I know you've got, I think it's 4 cabins, and they're
yeah.
pretty basic cabins, but I mean it's just a great view that you guys have. You got the hill there and the boat ramp below you and the water, and I think it's one of the best views in the whole park itself.
Yeah, aside from our camping sites, and you were just talking, the state park, we are open 12 months out of the year. The visitor center and bait shop hours kind of start cutting back to, during the week only pretty much after October. And then we fire back up in May as far as weekends. Otherwise, there's staff here year round. And then our cabins, we actually rent those all the way through the month of October. So we try to accommodate our visitors, and particularly the waterfowl hunters that are looking for a nice place to stay. And yeah, those cabins offer some of the best views in the park. Um, it, they're located right atop right above our beach area, and kind of overlooks Zebach Pass. You can see the boat ramp, and yeah, it offers some great views. And they're camper cabins is what we call those. So it's a one room structure. There's hydrants that owners or cabin users share, but they have electricity, heat, air conditioning, small refrigerator, and then they have basically 4 beds that are set up bunk bed style. So, and they're popular. So it's good to see our visitors appreciate those.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much all a person needs when you're looking at camping opportunities. And, when I look at campsites too, that's one of my main things is, what's the view and figuring things out from there. But no, I think those are a nice little addition to your guys' park out there.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Like I said, they're very popular. They all have picnic table, fire ring. All the cooking is supposed to be done outside. We don't allow cooking in them or anything like that. But they're, like you said, they're perfect for what our visitors need.
Absolutely. And another thing I know we touched on when we were kind of talking before we started recording here was, you had never fished Devil's Lake prior to moving here back in 2011,
Hmm.
which I find a really kind of a neat aspect of, you're a very avid fisherman. And I just kind of wanted to get your take on the last 8, 9 years up here on how you've learned to, get accustomed to Devil's Lake and maybe some things you didn't expect, or, maybe some things you found easier for visitors that are looking to come up, that it is a very doable lake to do it yourself and tackle on your own.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said, I grew up fishing a completely different technique, I guess, and completely different water. So the natural area of Devil's Lake, that natural body of water is just different. And I'm used to pulling bottom bouncers and spinners and, and jigging, and you can do that here, but it's just the areas that you target. And I probably being here for the time frame that I have been here, I should probably know more than I do. But I get a lot of enjoyment out of visiting with our guests and our customers here, and I learn, and I learn a lot from them, and I listen to them, and they can, as the years have gone by, I get to know more and more people in the community, and um, just try to learn something new every day, every year, if I can. You got to break out of your comfort zone when you're on the lake, and you need to be willing to to try different techniques. But I think it all comes down to you got to be able to put in the time, and you got to be okay just being out there, not dependent on a limit of walleyes, or even more particular, a limit of 16 or 18-inch walleyes. You have to weigh out uh, what's in your live well compared to the experience and the enjoyment for being outdoors. And I kind of follow that same method in what I do with the park too. But yeah, I've been able to get out both on in the winters, ice fishing and open water. Um, Sometimes the areas where I'm able to go are limiting depending on who's in my boat with a young family. So um, just enjoy the time out there. And Devil's Lake's a world-class fishery that there's a lot of great experiences waiting for you.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the whole, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be the matter of how many fish you caught, how many are in your live well, or the size of the ones your live well is. Did you get out, enjoy your experience in the outdoors, and were you able to just take it all in? And, I've talked to a lot of fishing guides in the last couple of years that have been, yeah, we're selling fishing trips, but at the end of the day, we're really selling an experience and a vacation. And I think that right there is really what we're all after in this industry. And I know it too. Like if I try to get out fishing as much as I can, and sometimes it's not always feasible with things going on, and you might go a couple weeks before you get back on the water. And I can always feel like I get antsy and get a little tension built up, but it seems like as soon as you get on the water and you spend even an hour or two out there, and it doesn't matter if your bobber's going under or you got a fish on the line, you can just feel kind of everything slowly fade away, and you kind of get back to, I don't know if you'd call it a Zen state, but that's what I'm always after out there. And whether I'm hunting or fishing, that's usually my go-to to get to that place.
Right, kind of back to the basics.
Exactly.
And I think we're going to experience a season that is going to be just like that. Back to the basics of enjoying the solitude of the outdoors, and resisting the socializing part of it. And so it'll be a challenge this season, but we're looking forward to seeing a lot of our visitors back.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting back out there too, and I wish you guys the best this summer. And I kind of wanted to just end with you maybe giving a little opportunity to give like a website and information where people can kind of learn more about the park, and everything with reservations and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So our agency website is www.parkrec.nd.gov. From that website, you can browse different state park opportunities, different events. All of our parks have Facebook pages, but then that's also where you can make reservations, campsite reservations, cabin reservations. Usually you have to contact the park for some of the other group facilities that are needed. You can buy annual passes right from the website, which a lot of people are utilizing this year, as a lot of our facilities are closed right now, particularly the facility, like the buildings. And should you have any questions, you can contact our central office, or Grams Island State Park phone number is 701-766-4015. and we'll be ramping up to our summer operating hours. So most of the time you'll be able to get a hold of somebody, but for any questions about reservations, you can certainly give us a call. Reservations can be made either online or through our call center.
And those are 90-day in advance?
Yeah, 95 days in advance
95.
for campsites, and then 365 days in advance for cabins.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No, I give you guys many props for doing a wonderful job out there and providing not only our visitors, but our community, because I know there's a lot of people from Devil's Lake that like to come out and, just take advantage of a weekend camping. And I think a couple of years ago, I remember, if not, there was a statistic, I think you guys had a visitor from every state that had checked in one way, shape, or form to the park. So I think it's a testament to, how crucial you guys are to our community and how lucky we really are to have you just 15 miles out of town there.
Well, we enjoy the relationship with the city of Devil's Lake and the community. It's always a vital relationship to really work on and foster, and so we see the benefits from that every year, year in and year out, especially in terms of the chamber tournament, and just we're tourism, and so we always look forward to and appreciate working with Devil's Lake Tourism.
Well, we look forward to working with you guys again, and just very fortunate to have you guys out there, and just want to wish everyone the best this summer, and we'll be definitely taking advantage of the property you have out there.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to seeing our visitors again.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Ryan, here on the Great Outside Podcast. I don't know if you have anything else you would like to cover before we sign off, but I think a lot of visitors will truly appreciate what you guys have to offer out there when they do arrive.
Yeah, no, I guess final thoughts would just be, we there's a reason that, we do what we do, and that's, the interaction aspect of it with similar minded visitors, people that appreciate the outdoors, and so that's why we do it, is to offer, our visitors an experience, like you said, but also, a safe environment to enjoy the outdoor resources. So, like I said, we are looking forward to, to the camping season, and we know there's some challenges ahead, but we're all going to get through it.
We are, and we'll be looking forward to it, and there'll be many a night spent on the water, hopefully catching a couple of walleyes, but ultimately at the end of the day, just getting out and enjoying the experience of the great outdoors.
Right. No, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Tanner.
Hey, thank you, Ryan. Have a great summer.
Yes, you too.
Thanks.